At some point in life, love stops being about romance and starts being about responsibility. This is the story of a man who had to choose between his father's approval and the family already calling him dad. A quiet choice, a difficult choice, and a reminder that sometimes the hardest words to say are, "I will not leave." Stay with us. Part 1. The day. Everything stopped feeling normal. The morning light slipped quietly through the curtains, landing on the edge of the bed without asking permission. James opened his eyes, but his body didn't move. He lay there for several minutes, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of his own breathing. It was calm, too calm. The kind of calm that usually came before something broke. He reached for his phone on the bedside table. No missed calls, no urgent messages, just one notification from Diep. He didn't open it right away. James had always been the type of man who believed problems could be solved by action. Work harder, think clearer, decide faster. That belief had carried him through years of pressure, long nights, and responsibility. But this time, he didn't know what action to take. He finally unlocked the screen. "I didn't sleep much. We need to talk today." James closed his eyes. He already knew that. A man who showed up but wasn't there at work. Everything looked normal. The building, the hallway, the familiar sound of keyboards and quiet conversations. James greeted people automatically, nodding, responding with short phrases. He sat at his desk, opened his laptop, and stared at the screen. Numbers blurred together, emails stacked up. He answered some, ignored others. Lynn came by his desk around mid-morning. "Are you okay?" she asked, lowering her voice. James looked up, surprised by the question. "I'm fine," he replied. Lynn studied his face for a moment longer than usual. She didn't believe him, but she didn't push. "You look tired," she said gently. James forced a small smile. "Just didn't sleep well." After she left, he leaned back in his chair and exhaled slowly. The truth was, he hadn't slept at all. The call he had been avoiding James stepped outside during lunch break. The sun was bright, but the air felt cold against his skin. He leaned against his car, phone in hand, thumb hovering over Diep's name. He pressed call. She answered quickly, as if she had been waiting. Neither of them spoke for a moment. "How are you?" James asked. "I'm okay," Diep replied. "Nye is asleep." James nodded, even though she couldn't see it. "Did you eat?" "A little." Another pause. Then Diep spoke again, her voice calm but tired. "James, your parents. When are you going to tell them?" James swallowed. "Tonight," he said. Diep didn't react. She had expected that answer. "Okay," she said quietly. Before hanging up, she added one sentence. "No matter what they say, don't fight with them." James closed his eyes. "I'll handle it," he said. A house that still felt heavy. That evening, James arrived at his parents' house alone. The gate creaked slightly as he pushed it open. He had heard that sound since childhood, yet tonight it felt unfamiliar. Inside, his father sat in the living room, reading the newspaper. His mother was in the kitchen. "Dad," James said. His father nodded, eyes still on the page. His mother appeared a moment later, drying her hands. "You're early," she said. James forced a smile. "I wanted to talk." She looked at him carefully. "Diep is coming later?" "Yes." His mother nodded slowly. She already knew something was wrong. Dinner without conversation. When Diep arrived, the atmosphere changed. Not dramatically, just enough. She greeted James's parents politely, her posture respectful, her voice steady. She sat beside James, hands resting neatly on her lap. Dinner was served. The food smelled good, but no one seemed hungry. Chopsticks moved slowly. No one spoke. James felt the pressure building in his chest. Finally, his father set his chopsticks down. "So?" he said. "What is it?" James straightened his back. "I want to marry Diep." The words hung in the air. His mother froze. Diep lowered her gaze. His father didn't respond immediately. Then he said, "No." Just that. The first crack. James stared at his father. "Why?" he asked. His father stood up. "You know why?" James clenched his jaw. "Diep is pregnant." Silence. His mother's hand trembled slightly. His father turned away. "That's exactly why I said no," he replied. Diep's shoulders tightened. James felt anger rise, but he forced it down. "I'm taking responsibility," James said. "I won't abandon her." His father turned back. "This is not responsibility," he said coldly. "This is carelessness." A mother caught in the middle. James's mother finally spoke. "She's not a bad girl," she said softly. "I know," his father replied. "That doesn't make this right." She looked at James, her eyes filled with worry. Then at Diep. Her voice broke. "Things don't always go the way we plan," she whispered. His father said nothing, but his silence was a wall, walking out with nothing. James stood up. "I'm sorry," he said, "but I won't leave her." His father didn't stop him. His mother watched him walk out, tears forming in her eyes. Outside, the air felt heavier. James walked away from the house he'd grown up in. This time, he didn't know when he would return. Part 2. When responsibility starts to hurt. James didn't drive right away. He sat in the car, hands resting on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead. The engine was off. The street was quiet. A dog barked somewhere far away, then stopped. He took a deep breath, then another. Nothing changed. His phone buzzed. A message from Diep. Did it go okay? James stared at the screen for a long moment before replying. No. He didn't explain. He didn't have the strength to. Back to a small room with too much silence. Diep was sitting on the edge of the bed when James arrived. Nye was lying down, her face slightly flushed, breathing slower than usual. A damp cloth rested on her forehead. Diep looked up when James entered. She didn't ask anything. She already knew. James sat beside her, their shoulders barely touching. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the fan. "I'm sorry," James said. Diep shook her head. "You didn't do anything wrong." James leaned forward, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. "He said no," James continued. "He didn't even think about it." Diep nodded slowly. "I expected that." James turned to her. "You shouldn't have to." Diep didn't answer right away. She adjusted the blanket around Nye, making sure it covered her chest. "Life doesn't ask us what we expect," she said quietly. A child who didn't understand the weight. Later that night, Nye woke up crying. Not loud, just uncomfortable. James reached her first. She clung to his shirt, her body warm against his chest. "Daddy," she whispered. That single word tightened something inside him. James held her gently, rocking back and forth. Diep stood nearby, watching them. Her eyes were tired, but calm. "She's a little warm," Diep said. "Nothing serious." James nodded, but worry stayed on his face. He had handled pressure at work, deadlines, money, decisions that affected hundreds of people. But this was different. This was small hands gripping his shirt, trusting him without question. A mother who couldn't sleep. That same night, James's mother lay awake. Her husband slept beside her, breathing evenly. She stared at the ceiling. Diep's face kept appearing in her mind. Quiet, respectful, never demanding anything. And James, standing in front of them, not angry, not defensive, just firm. Her chest tightened. She turned to look at her husband. He looked peaceful. She wasn't. The morning after James left early for work the next day, Diep watched him from the doorway. "You don't have to go," she said. "I should," James replied. "I can't stop everything." Diep nodded. "I know." Before leaving, James looked back at Nye, still sleeping. "I'll come back early." Diep smiled faintly. "Drive safe." A man doing his job on autopilot. At the office, James went through the motions. Meetings, emails, phone calls. People spoke to him, and he responded appropriately, but nothing fully registered. During lunch, Lynn sat across from him. "You look worse than yesterday," she said. James gave a short laugh. "That's progress." Lynn studied him. "Family?" James hesitated. "Yes." She didn't ask more. Some things didn't need questions. A father who refused to move. That afternoon, James's father sat alone in the living room. The house felt too quiet. He reread the same newspaper page multiple times without absorbing anything. His wife came in, carrying a cup of tea. She placed it on the table. "You should drink something," she said. He nodded, but didn't touch it. After a moment, she spoke. "James won't leave her." "I know," he replied. "And Diep won't leave him." He remained silent. "She's pregnant," his wife continued. "And there's a child." He turned to her sharply. "That doesn't change what's right." She didn't back down. "Or maybe it changes everything." Words that didn't sound like a fight. That evening, James returned home earlier than usual. Diep was sitting on the floor, folding laundry. Nee played quietly nearby. James sat down next to Diep. Neither of them spoke. Minutes passed. Then James said, "I don't know how long this will take." Diep nodded. "I know. I won't force my parents. I know. But I won't leave you either." Diep stopped folding. She looked at him. "I don't need you to fight them," she said. "I just need you to stay." James reached for her hand. "I'm here." A phone call that changed nothing. Yet later that night, James's phone rang. It was his mother. "Are you busy?" she asked. "No." She hesitated. "Is Nye okay?" "She had a mild fever," James replied. "She's better now." There was relief in his mother's breath. "That's good." They sat in silence for a moment. Then she said, "Your father is stubborn." James smiled sadly. "I know." "He's not heartless," she added. "He just needs time." James didn't respond. He had learned that time didn't always soften people. Sometimes it hardened them. Part 3. The kind of yes that comes late. The next morning, James's mother didn't cook breakfast. She sat at the table with a cup of coffee that went cold, staring at the same spot on the wall, like the answer might show up there. Her husband walked in, already dressed, tie slightly loose, face set like stone. He noticed the untouched food. "You're not eating?" he asked. "I'm not hungry." He sat down anyway, opened the newspaper, like it could protect him from the conversation he knew was coming. His wife watched him for a moment, then said calmly, "You're going to lose him." He didn't look up. "He's my son. He won't leave." She leaned forward a little. "Not physically. He'll still visit. He'll still say hello. He'll still be polite." Her voice stayed soft, but it was sharp in the way truth always is. "But you'll lose the part of him that trusts you." That made him pause. The paper lowered a fraction. He chose a woman you didn't approve of, he said. And you want me to bless it like it's nothing? His wife's eyes didn't flinch. It's not nothing. It's a baby. It's a family. It's a child who calls him daddy without knowing what pride is. The father's jaw tightened. Don't use the child to guilt me. I'm not using anyone, she replied. I'm reminding you what's already real. Silence fell. Then she said the sentence that changed the air in the room. I want to meet her again, properly, as the mother of your grandchild. He stared at her, surprised. You're going against me? She shook her head. I'm standing next to our son. A house with a small table and big fear. That afternoon, Diep swept the yard slowly. Not because it needed sweeping, but because her hands needed to do something. Her stomach felt heavy, not painful, just present, like a quiet reminder with every movement. Nye sat on the doorstep, drawing on a piece of paper with a short pencil. Mom, Nee said suddenly, when is Daddy coming? Diep hesitated. He'll come. Daddy sad? Nye asked, eyes innocent. Diep forced a gentle smile. Daddy is just tired. Nye nodded like she understood, then went back to drawing. Diep looked at the sky, bright and clean, and felt her throat tighten. Bright days were the hardest sometimes, because everything outside looked normal, while your inside felt like it was breaking. A mother at the door. When James's mother arrived, Diep didn't recognize the sound of the car at first. It wasn't James's car. Diep looked up and froze. She saw the older woman step out, holding a small bag in one hand, shoulders tense, face nervous like someone walking into a place where they might not be welcome. Diep's first instinct was to retreat, not out of anger, out of fear. But then she saw the woman's eyes. They weren't cold. They were conflicted. Diep walked forward and bowed her head slightly. Hello, Auntie. James's mother swallowed. Hello, Diep. They stood there for a second, both unsure what comes next in real life, because real life doesn't have dramatic music to guide it. Diep opened the gate wider. Please come in. Inside, Nye peeked out from behind Diep's leg. James's mother crouched slowly, careful, like she didn't want to scare the child away. You're Nye, she said softly. Nye nodded. James's mother smiled, small and shaky. I brought you fruit. Nye's eyes widened. Thank you. Diep watched that exchange and felt something twist in her chest. Hope and anxiety mixed together. James's mother looked around the simple room, the worn sofa, the clean but plain kitchen, the child's toys in a basket. She didn't say anything judgmental. She just sat down quietly. After a moment, she whispered, I didn't realize. You were doing all this alone. Diep didn't answer right away. Then she said, honest and plain, I've always been alone. James just came into it. The older woman's lips pressed together. She nodded once. I'm sorry. That word sounded strange coming from her. But Diep didn't disrespect it. She simply nodded back. A man who arrived too late to control the moment. When James arrived home from work, he stopped at the doorway. His mother was sitting inside. Diep was pouring tea. Nye was eating a banana happily, like nothing in the world was wrong. James stared. Mom? His mother looked up. I came to see them, she said. Not to fight. James's throat tightened. He walked in, slowly, like the room might collapse if he moved too fast. Diep glanced at him. Her eyes said, It's okay. Sit down. James sat. For the first time in days, he felt air enter his lungs properly. His mother looked at him. You love her. James didn't hesitate. Yes. And the baby? James's hand moved unconsciously to Diep's belly. Yes, His mother exhaled. Then we need to stop pretending this can be erased. James almost laughed, but his eyes watered instead. The father who refused until he couldn't. That night, James went back to his parents' house. He didn't bring anger. He brought exhaustion. His father was in the living room, watching TV without really watching. James stood there. "I'm not asking anymore," James said quietly. "I'm telling you." His father's eyes narrowed. "You're threatening me?" James shook his head. "No." He paused, voice steady but tired. "I'm choosing my family." His father stood up. "You think you can just—" James cut him off. Not loud, not disrespectful, just firm. "She's pregnant. She's raising a child who calls me father, and I love her." His father's face hardened. "You love her? Fine. Love doesn't make a marriage right." James stared at him. "What makes it right then? Money? Status? Your pride?" His father flinched at that. James took a breath. "I wanted you to walk with me into this." He swallowed hard. "But even if you don't, I'll still do it." His father's voice dropped, colder. "Then do it without my blessing." James nodded slowly. "Okay." He turned to leave, and that was the moment. Not when James argued, not when James begged, but when James accepted. The father's heart shifted because he saw it. His son was no longer a boy waiting for permission. He was a man walking forward. "James?" James stopped. The father's voice cracked slightly, like it surprised him too. You really won't turn back?" James looked over his shoulder. "No." The father stared at the floor, fighting something inside himself. Then he said, "Lo, I raised you to be responsible." James didn't answer. The father continued, struggling through each word. "If you're going to do this, then do it properly." James's eyes widened. His father lifted his gaze. "Bring her here tomorrow." James's breath caught. "Dad?" His father looked away quickly, embarrassed by his own softness. "Don't make me repeat it." A small ceremony, a real one. The wedding wasn't fancy. There was no expensive hall, no long guest list, no show. Just family. A few close friends. Food cooked with real hands. A simple dress. Diep wore something modest, light-colored, clean, simple. Her hair was tied neatly. Her face looked pale from months of stress, but her eyes were steady. James wore a suit, not to impress anyone, to show respect. When James's father walked into the room and saw Diep standing there, he paused. Diep bowed her head. "Uncle." His face stayed stern, but his eyes softened, just a little. He nodded once. That nod was not love, but it was acceptance. And sometimes acceptance is the first door. James's mother stood beside Diep, adjusting the veil gently, whispering, "You look beautiful." Diep's eyes watered. She whispered back, "Thank you, Mom." The words slipped out before she could stop it. James's mother froze. Then her eyes filled. She squeezed Diep's hand. No speeches. No dramatic vows. Just James looking at Diep and saying, voice rough, "I will not leave you." Diep replied, simple, "I will keep building with you." They held hands, and when they bowed to the parents, James's father's hands shook slightly. He didn't cry, but his throat tightened, and his eyes looked away fast. Men like him don't cry in public. They just carry it. The baby boy. Months later, on a bright morning, James was pacing in a hospital hallway. His suit jacket was gone. His shirt sleeves were rolled. His hair was messy. For once, he wasn't a CEO. He was just a man waiting outside a door, terrified. When the nurse finally came out and smiled, "Congratulations, it's a boy." James went still. Then his knees almost gave out. He laughed quietly, half relief, half disbelief. When he entered the room, Diep looked exhausted, hair damp, face pale. But she smiled, and in her arms was a tiny baby, wrapped in white. James approached slowly, like the baby might disappear if he moved wrong. Diep whispered, "He's here." James touched the baby's hand with one finger. So small, so real. His eyes filled. "I'm sorry," James whispered, voice breaking, "for everything you had to carry." Diep blinked away tears. "We're here now," she said. James nodded. "We're here." Nee stood beside the bed, holding a small stuffed toy. She looked at the baby. "Little brother?" she asked. Diep smiled. "Yes." Nee looked proud, like she had just earned a new title in life. James laughed softly through tears. Outside, James's father arrived later that day. He stood at the door, stiff, like he didn't know how to enter this new world. James saw him. Their eyes met. The father took one step, then another. He approached the baby, stared down at the tiny face. For a long time, he said nothing. Then, in a voice that sounded like it hurt to release, "He looks like you." James swallowed hard. "Yeah." The father hesitated, then reached out, awkwardly, and touched the baby's blanket. Not even the baby's skin, just the blanket. But it was enough. He cleared his throat. "I was wrong." James didn't move. He didn't speak. He just nodded. Because sometimes the best forgiveness is silence that doesn't push the moment away. Diep watched, tears slipping quietly. James's mother stood beside her, arm around her shoulders, whispering, "Welcome home."